and welcome to another episode of Choose Your Destiny with your host, Nev Kragulevich. With me, I have a dear colleague and a friend and an amazing individual that I'm excited for all of you to get to know, Lani. So, Lani, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Nev, for having me. It's a joy for me to be here with you today.
So, tell us, Lani, if you want to introduce yourself to the audience, tell us who you are and what is it that you do.
Well, my name is Lani Reagan, and I'm an intuitive life coach. I call myself an intuitive life coach because I use my natural skills for intuition, working with the subtle forces coming off of the body. I can see energy and have a feeling for the energy, and also I hear. And I've used all of that information to reduce it into the negative subconscious blocks that someone is working through. And I help them to kind of work through those blocks and smooth it out so that their subconscious is in alignment with their conscious intention. And I do that using a couple of different alternative healing modalities. And so far, I have helped a lot of people come into a greater degree of awareness of themselves and the world. And and I'm just busy building more and more field of influence so I can help more people.
Excellent. So, how did you get started in that business? It's a very unique kind of business, at least for me. So, how did you get started in that?
Well, I had always had an interest in health and wellness. From a young age, I was reading books about my sister had asthma, and we were spent a lot of time at the hospital with her, like getting shots in the arm and albuterol. And I always kind of was thinking that there's got to be an easier way for the body to heal. And why did people have to suffer so much? It was actually pretty traumatic to have to grow up with somebody who was having like major asthma attacks and was on the verge of dying. There were times where we would be like, oh my God, is she going to die? And so I just kind of was always on this kick about like eating well and vitamins. And I read Fit for Life when I was like 12 and started doing vegetarian and just kind of right off the bat adopted a healthy lifestyle. But it wasn't until my body got sick when I was an adult and nothing was working. I was generally well and just wasn't a person that got sick. Doctors couldn't find anything particularly wrong with me, but I was having dizzy spells and respiratory ailment and digestive issues for like a span of about 3 months. And by this time, I started to kind of wonder that there were other things out there. So, like most people who want to kind of do something about their health, I was doing some research and I found a book and started doing these kind of weird hand motions in the air. It looks like you're kind of moving your hands around in the air. And my migraine headache that I had at that time pretty much disappeared within 5 minutes. And I was kind of floored, like, how could I do this? Like, this is weird. Like this stuff is weird. I was like, I don't come from a background that would like naturally believe in these things. I was more sort of science based, even though my family was very religious. I was more like, I need to see the proof is in the pudding. And when my headache came back in 2 hours, I didn't tell myself, well, this is just hocus pocus and it doesn't work. I just thought, you can't learn how to do this off of a book. It's not like you can't just learn how to knit or surf off of a book. You have to go and get lessons from someone. So I booked an appointment with an experienced healer. And even now I kind of sort of reel against the word healer because I sometimes think that the word healer is a little too bravado, although these days people call me healer and I'm used to like the word. But I really think it's about helping the body to facilitate its own healing process. And so I sat down in front of someone who does that whole thing. And within 25 minutes, my headache was gone. My sore throat was gone. Like I had a heaviness hanging over my body and there was a lot of stress energy in my life. And all of us, we may not believe in the world of energy, but all of us are swimming in it all the time. And I always share with people that it's possible to throw your energy across the room like so many of us have when you want to connect with someone who's 50 feet away and you're like, oh, you're calling their name in your head. And they kind of like turn around because they feel like someone's looking at them. And then you're like, you make a connection. And so we all sort of are using it like by second nature, but we don't really know the science of that energetic field that's surrounding us. And when I was sitting there and the person did this work on me, I was impressed because everybody else in the room, it was sort of like this group clinic type of thing. And everybody else in the room who were healers were doing the same hand movements. And everybody that was sitting down getting the work done on them were looking like literally younger when they stood up. And I thought to myself, there's got to be a science to this. So I went to the American Institute of Asian Studies and I just soaked up all the classes and I traveled and I went to seminars and I did retreats and I just started doing the work. And I was a massage therapist previous to this. And it got to the point where people were kind of wanting the energy work with the massage. And then eventually from doing the work, my little psychic sensibility started becoming more open. And then I kind of morphed it into my own thing. And so now I just call it dynamic healing therapies. And it's very interesting because you will find, at least I found this with myself, and I think everybody who can reflect on this at some point in time in their life, that there's like the sense that you're being led into something that you're supposed to be doing with yourself. And I do think that this was my thing, that I was being led to kind of be in this space because I wasn't conditioned or groomed for this. Like my parents did not groom me to be an energy healer, like some people are like, oh, my parents wanted me to become a doctor or a lawyer. My parents didn't even want me to become a doctor or a lawyer, but they definitely had no idea that I would be doing what I'm doing today. And it kind of came through the back end because I got sick and I needed help. So yeah, that's kind of the long story to the answer, but it's been a journey.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, the energy healing is absolutely amazing. I'm personally fascinated with Eastern philosophies and medicine. And I have actually experienced energy healing as a child.
Oh,
My mom actually was very much into alternative medicine, even when I was growing up, and she was trying all these different things. And she found this guy that was an energy healer. This is back home in Belgrade. And her and I went to see him because I had an ingrown toenail that was infected and it was hurting and they were saying pull it out and surgeries. And my mom was of this belief that, right, you don't go and cut right away. You go and try different ways to solve for it. So we were
mm-hmm.
trying this medical ointments and herbs and it wasn't working. And it needed to be drained, but it was so inflamed that like just looking at it hurt. Nonetheless, somebody touching and actually getting the stuff out.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's this guy, we go in, and very cool looking guy. I mean, he was in his 80s, but he had a vitality of like a 35-year-old. It was
Wow.
amazing,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely amazing. So he puts me in the back room. He says, sit over here on this table. I sat on the table. He said, look me right here and do not focus on anything else but right here, my third eye. And so I'm
Wow.
like, okay, like I'm doing this. And he goes, I'm going to touch your foot, but you're not going to feel anything. Next thing I know, the guy is touching my foot. It just feels like somebody's touching your foot. I feel no pain whatsoever. So
Wow.
now it's like this like energy healer meets the pimple popper lady, right? The stuff comes out, it's all cleared out. He puts these ointments and stuff, and he was like, okay, we're all done. You should be fine, no pain whatsoever. And I'm like, seriously? Like, and he goes, yeah, look all the stuff that I was able to take out of your toe. And I'm like, oh, that's gross and cool. So we come out. My mom is like, how are you? I'm like, I'm good. Nothing hurts. My mom is like,
Wow.
yeah, you're just joking. Are you putting a brave face on? And I said, no, no. And he said, come on, mom. I'm going to show you what this actually can do. My mother had rheumatoid arthritis. And so that's a very painful condition and inflammation. And so, her bending forward to touch her toes was just not happening. So he
Wow.
waved, when you're talking about waving the hands, so there he is waving the hands around her. And I mean, I can feel the wind, like as if somebody turned on the fan. I could feel this wind just whipping my face. And he's doing some stuff with my mom, and he goes, "Okay, bend over, touch your toes." And she was like, "I can't do that." He goes, "I didn't ask you if you can. I'm telling you what to do." Off the woman goes that I have grown up with, goes all the way, touches her toes. I mean, she could barely go past her knees. And he was
Wow.
like, "You feel any pain?" She goes, "No." He goes, "All right, let's do something fun." And he looks at me, he goes, "Do you want to have fun with mom?" And I'm like, "Sure." Right. I'm a teenager. Now I think this is awesome. So
Uh-huh.
now he goes, waves his hand and goes back, bent backwards. And off this woman goes like good, almost like, 90-degree parallel with the floor backwards,
Wow.
laughing, no pain. At that moment, I was like, this works. You just have to
Wow.
experience it, but it absolutely works.
Wow.
And
Yeah,
I'm sure
that's
that
like
that's what
amazing.
your clients say. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, I have some miraculous stories like that too. Yeah. I mean, um, it's everybody's a little bit different because some people are more or less entitled karmically to certain degrees of healing.
Yeah.
And apparently your mother had some karmic entitlement for it to be completely done with. I was working a clinic as a healer with a colleague of mine, and he worked on a woman who had arthritis where her hands were like this and she could barely walk. And after about 45 minutes, she was sitting up straight and her hands were moving. And he said, "Make sure you come back." Because sometimes what happens is, now, how long was your mother able to keep that degree of limberness? Did
So we
she?
went in, my gosh, I was probably about 16, 17, roughly, if I remember, maybe a little bit younger. Um, and, we went in a few different times. And so we went for these sessions for a few months. And I mean, I just remember, like, I would just giggle. You know how children just out of nowhere giggle, like they're just laughing. Nothing is funny. And I would just
Mhm.
sit at the table. I remember my dad got so mad because we're having this like Sunday dinner, and I'm just all of a sudden I just started giggling because I was just full of joy, I guess, good energy. And my sister starts laughing. Now my mother picks up, and so now three of us are just dying. And he has no idea what's happening. Now he's upset because he thinks maybe we have this like joke amongst us and we're picking on
Mhm.
him. So now he got really angry, which made me even more,
Laugh
right?
even
Like
more.
laugh even
Yeah.
more. Oh my gosh. So I would get in this laughing spell. So we did this for a while, and my mom, I mean, my gosh, she was a completely different woman. And then
Person.
I
Yeah.
don't remember what happened, but we stopped going. And a couple of years later, I
But
remember
if she kept going, then
yeah,
she had a profound experience, and it's very likely
oh
that
yeah.
she was not afflicted again till she was much older. Is that correct?
Yeah, so what ended up happening is that we didn't go for a while, and I had tried to go back and find him, and this is going to sound completely insane to most people and most listeners, but the place where his house was, um, when I went back a couple of years later, there was nothing there. I can't
Wow.
explain it. I don't know how my mom found him. I went
Wow.
there. The place obviously exists, the GPS location, but it was like a
Yeah.
large front yard, a house. There's no front yard. There's no house. You can't even see foundation. Like
Wow.
I can't
Wow.
explain it. I
Yeah.
I
No,
I
I get
I
it. It's
uh
almost like
I don't
it's
know that
so
I have logical or scientific experience or intelligence to be able to explain it.
yeah. Well, it's so out of the mental framework of what we're used to that it's like it's unbelievable. And I will tell you, even after learning and doing the work. There would be times where, is this really going to work? But I'm like, why am I thinking that? Is this really going to work? I've seen it work before. Or maybe you're so feeling sad for the person, or you think they're feeling so stuck and you're like, oh, can I possibly help them? And then I just go, oh, like this is just a technique. Now, the really interesting thing about it is because I found some very high level teachers, this is not just a matter of tradition. And it isn't a matter of getting handed down something genetically speaking that, like, although I do believe that my grandfather had some natural, on my mom's side, had some natural healing ability. But where I come from is that this is actually based on some constants. And once you understand what the constants are, then you have a framework for producing regular, consistent results. And this is how I've built my business. And in fact, I'm starting to teach these skills online. And I'm just getting ready to launch my 12-week intuitive healing and energy healing and transformation program. So it's a mentoring slash instructional program that's going to last 3 months. And I'm going to teach my clients and interested people how to use the techniques, but also the science of energy, because all indigenous cultures have their forms of energy healing. And if this was just hocus pocus magic, then there would be no reason why these traditions would be working and would be in existence for so long. So just because it's unknown doesn't mean that it's not effective and doesn't mean that it's not valid. And indeed, there's a lot of research. The body of research for it is crazy now more than ever before. So, it's a blessing actually that you had that contact with that man, because he just showed you what the possibility is when you understand the laws of nature that govern energy healing. It's just that by the same laws, you can produce not good results too. So it's
Yep.
it's almost
That
like
would be
it's
part of
classified.
the black magic almost, right?
Yeah, it's
The
like
dark
it's
arts.
classified. Yeah, that's right. It's like it's classified information because you really have to have a heart that's willing to serve. And I believe a measure of goodwill and the will to do good. Otherwise, people can start to want to kind of use this to sort of for personal gain or for something. And so I have an application process by which I am taking people in, because I don't work with everyone. And if they pass that and they pass my energetic scanning, then I will let them in. And actually that starts, I'm doing a free webinar on March 5th. And then my program will start on the 11th. So it'll be on a Monday evening at 6 o'clock.
Very, very cool. Yeah, I'm glad that you have mentioned that, because I had, as I was listening to you talk, I have so many questions. But one of the questions was, for folks that are potentially looking and saying, like, I truly believe in energy work. And just to go with the whole energy work, one of the great mentors that I have been blessed to have had said, when I would always say, but I don't understand how it all works. And he said, well, are you an electrician? And I said, no. He said, are you an engineer? And I said, no. He goes, so you don't completely understand how electricity works? I said, no, not really. He said, but you do understand that when you turn the switch up, the light comes on. When you turn it down, the light comes off. I said, yeah. He goes, and you use it? I said, yeah. He goes, so why won't you use this? So that's kind of when I'm listening to you, that metaphor manifested in my head to say, you may not always necessarily understand how the energy healing works, right? And it sounds like you do when you teach that, but I'm talking about folks who maybe are more like me, who may not quite get a grasp, but it works, right? And
Yes.
so if it works, why not use it?
Totally.
Yeah. And so I appreciate kind of sharing that. That was something that popped in my head, but I did want to, ask for folks that are saying, this is really cool. And, my heart, my passion is to help people. And I believe in alternative medicine, and I believe in healing, and I believe in, this kind of stuff because maybe they're like me and experienced it. Maybe they've seen, their parent or loved one experience this and they're saying,
Mhm.
this is so cool. I want to be able to do this. And so it sounds like you have a program for folks to sign up and learn.
Yes, because the techniques are very easy, um, and they're based on um, some very easily understandable laws of nature. And I like to use the example that you used. I usually tell people, you probably can't tell me exactly how your phone works. And most people well, I know that I turn it on and I press the screen. You're just pressing a screen, but you don't really know how all the information is transferred. But you just do it. And so the techniques that I teach, they're relegated to just basic techniques. But then I'm going to explain to you the underlying science of why those techniques work. For example, I explain the field of energy, and its relationship to the body in this way, that unless your cells already know how to heal naturally. You don't have to tell your skin how to make a scab when it gets cut. But when your body doesn't have access to the raw material it needs to heal itself, when it doesn't have access to life force, then the healing will happen faster. So let's say, we've all had instances where we, have a cut and we're stressed and maybe like super tired and run down, and the energy field is depleted and you don't have enough vibration coming into your body, and the cut takes like 3 weeks to heal. And then right. And then we've all had instances where you get the cut, but everything's good in your life, the energy's flowing. And then, 2 days later, it's scabbed over. It isn't because your body forgot how to make a scab. It's just because there isn't enough life force. Now, there's a process to everything. So just like you have a physical anatomy, you also have an energetic anatomy. There's a means by which the energy comes into the body. And so you have energy veins called meridians, and you have energy spheres called chakras, and you have an auric field. This is radiatory field that comes out off of your skin 3 to 6 feet into the environment. And everybody can understand the auric field, because if you've ever been in a place where you were standing next to someone and you got uncomfortable and you felt like you had to move somewhere else, and there's no real reason why you could put your finger on it. It's because your auric field is picking up information and like feeding you like all the time. Like you're just getting a sense, people call it a vibe, or you get a hit about something. And so from that perspective, people kind of start to realize it. And just like electricity, how the energy moves through your body is governed by certain laws that are similar to aerodynamics and similar to the laws that govern engineering. And so once you sort of understand that, it becomes like it's way easier than people think. And everything's based on cleansing and energizing. So just like when you go to the doctor, if you have a cut, they don't put the medicine on. They disinfect first, so they're going to clean it, and then they're going to put the medication on. So in my whole arena, and also, the Native Americans, they sage. The Chinese culture, they use chimes, and all of that is cleansing the auric field. And just like your guy that you described, where he kind of is like putting his hands on there and he did some cleaning so that it just expels everything and all the pus comes out. And then when he told you to look here, this is the chakra. This is like the command center of the chakra. So this chakra will tell all the other chakras what to do. So if he was holding a strong vibration for your healing and he was holding it right here, when you are looking at him right here, all of a sudden your chakral energies start to align with his intention for your body to heal. You have to be a super crazy, powerful healer to do that. So you saw somebody who was very high level. Yeah, very high level. And it's a little, it must have made you feel really sad when you couldn't go back and see him. Because if it had been your destiny to actually question him, he probably would have given you some trade secrets.
Yeah. No, he actually, so there is, I don't know what it's called in English, but it's often it's a crystal, but it can be, it's like a pendant and it hangs off of like a rope.
Uh-huh.
It can be used for healing, can be used for all kinds of different things.
Uh-huh.
And, I was so fascinated with what he was doing. I think if we stayed longer, I would have just sort of become like an apprentice and just followed him everywhere. I was so fascinated with it. And so
Yeah.
he taught me kind of how to do some of that stuff with it. And to this date, I actually still have it. I brought it here with me to the States when I moved.
Awesome.
I only had like a
Awesome.
bag to bring, and that was one of the things, because it just meant so much to me.
Cool. Well,
Yeah.
that's kind of like that's probably a really valuable piece right there. Like that
So
he gave it to you, you know?
yeah.
Yeah, you were lucky to meet a great teacher. There's individuals who have like this inherent way of beingness around them because it's come from other places. I mean, sometimes people don't believe in past lives or, that kind of thing. I happen to. I don't require that my clients do. But it sounds like you met someone who was very like in his zone with regard to it. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like an angel walking on the face of the planet,
Oh yeah. It
right?
was. It was. Yeah. It was definitely something very interesting. Very very
So
interesting.
my teacher's dream was to have one healer, qualified healer in every household so that like people can be taken care of. And my sisters and brother, like we were all sort of in the healing arts. My brother was a fitness instructor, PE teacher. My two sisters are both massage therapists. One's a doula, one does emotional healing with essential oils. And so they move energy in their own way. None of them really necessarily ascribe to the hand, like off the body type of work per se, but they've gotten healings from me. And, and I've helped with my nieces and nephews. My dad had an issue with gout once, like one healing, no more gout. And so if you could have one person in every household who had this knowledge and this skill to kind of like keep people from needing to go to the emergency room or sit in long lines in the waiting room. Now, I'm not anti-doctor. I'm not like a crazy, like, fanatical, like healer person. I totally believe that medicine is appropriate,
Oh yeah.
that emergency rooms are important, that doctors are valuable. I do happen to believe that the pharmaceutical companies and the medical establishment is set up as a business model. So they're not really invested in your health the way someone like me would be. Because really, I don't like taking people's money unless they have a result. And, it's sort of like you go to the doctor and you can pay a whole lot of money and, well, like it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And not only that, does it not work, it might make you feel worse with a whole bunch of side effects. And I'm not dogging on doctors here, like doctors are amazing. It's just that when you're working with someone who's in the healing arts, in the complementary mode of the healing arts, they actually like it better when you are getting healthy. Because I don't see it. I see it as a success. I don't see it as I'm getting, oh, my client isn't going to come back to me anymore, and so I'm not going to have enough money. I see it as, oh, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and they're going to tell other people, and I'm going to get more business, and that's how it's going to be. So my mentality is a little bit different, and but it's all important, right? It's all
Yeah.
important.
Yeah. Very cool. So who would make the perfect client for you? We talked a little bit about you doing some stuff and teaching folks who are wanting to learn whether to heal themselves, their family members, or maybe, right, like looking to learn more, maybe heal other friends and folks in their network. But as far as potential clients or patients, who is a perfect client for you?
Well, I work with a wide array of conditions. Most of the time, people end up talking to me because they have something that, like the doctors, the therapists, other healers or counselors or psychics or mediums or whatever, have not been able to like get them somewhere. Um, these days, I'm focusing more on emotional healing and emotional wellness. primarily because you can heal the body, but when the mind is slanted in a certain energy frequency and an energy pattern, then you need more healing. And sometimes it comes back. I've had some really amazing cases where people like no heartburn and no heartburn and no heartburn, and it just still hasn't come back. It's been years. And I've had cases where people like, okay, the heartburn got better, but then since they weren't coming back regularly, then it comes back. And so I tend to want to work more at the layer of the subconscious mind, because we all have little glitches in our operating system. I tell people that no one escapes human woundedness. It's par for the course in a journey, in a life. And we all have great things that happen in our lives. And then we have things that are like sort of painful before we have cognition of it. And if you're 3 and the milk spills on the table and your parents go off, you're going to have an uncomfortable emotion, but you won't have the language to express how you feel. You won't have the language to process your emotion, but that emotion will make you choose a thought. And if you're 3, you could randomly choose the thought that milk is not good for you. If you choose the thought that milk isn't good for you and you're an adult, you just will co-create a life where milk is no longer in your vicinity. But if you're the 4-year-old sister who makes her fear mean that daddy doesn't love her, or if your 6-year-old brother is sitting there and he gets startled, and he might make it mean that he must be clumsy, those 2 people will go out into the world, and one will have problems in her relationships because she's going to believe she's unlovable, and the other one will have get into accidents. And so, which is better? Is it better to kind of just do the healing on the ankle because maybe he sprained his ankle or broke a leg or whatever? Or is it better to kind of look and see at the deeper layers what's really going on there so that you can change that and align it with your conscious intention and then leave a negative pattern and start co-creating something else? I don't believe that we're ever victims. And I say that, I don't want that to be miscalculated, because of course there's perpetrators and there are victims, but I do believe that the majority of us are in a space-time continuum where we're co-creating our realities, and then we want to blame somebody else for the reality that we're participating in. And I think that it's way more powerful to kind of look at it the other way. So to answer your question, Nev, the ideal client for me is someone who is open to the notion that what they think might not be possible might really be possible.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I am a believer. And one thing to go off with the victim thing, I am right there with you. I absolutely agree with you that there is no such thing as victim. Victim to me, and again, that's not to put people down who have been hurt or harmed by individuals. I am one of those individuals who was hurt and harmed, but I was never a victim, not even in the moment where all of the different bones in my body were broken and I was being transported to preserve my life. Even at that
Wow.
moment, I wasn't a victim, because by being a victim, I give power to the other people.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, that becomes that victim mentality, that woe is me. And I don't believe that that's the right way to live. It's something that happened. It's, something that you can hopefully learn from. Bad things happen to good people. Good things happen to bad people, and all the way around. And, dwelling on something that happened and making it into a meaning that it's really not. It was just bad time, bad place.
Yeah.
It's that simple, right? And a individual or individuals, with the poor line of thinking. But I absolutely 100% agree with you. I don't necessarily believe in being a victim, or absolutely not staying a victim, right? Like, things happened, get up,
Yeah.
get up and move
Mm-hmm.
on. And if you need help emotionally, mentally, to sort of heal over it, it appears that Lani might be the person to just get the flow going again. And
Yeah, because we're I this is what I teach in my sessions. And at the same time, I know that when we're videotaping and a wide audience is going to be watching, I don't mean to say that we're never victims in the sense that there are some really huge atrocities that kind of happen in the world.
Absolutely,
And
yeah.
there's some pretty crazy things that happen. Um, and even that, I would say it for your average person who kind of like, you have a strong mind, Nev, to say that you went through all that and you can just make the choice that you're not the victim. And for whatever reason, you went through it, but you got through it. And most people, I would say a lot of people don't have that degree of inner strength in their minds so that they can just jump the hoop. Most of us really want to know, why did that happen to me? Or like, what is kind of going on? And if there's no immediate answer, then that's when I think people kind of slip into the victim mode
Mm.
and they kind of want to like wallow in sort of what happened, or just um, almost sometimes it's like reliving it. But when I introduce this concept to someone, and I really believe that we're all just moving through certain life classrooms, because contrary to what we think when we're born, I say there's this conventional roadmap to happiness, and then there's like the real roadmap to happiness. And most people end up in my office after they've exhausted the conventional roadmap to happiness. I have clients who are some like very accomplished and have a lot of money, and they're like, and what else is there? And what I'm saying about the victim model is that because we're always co-creating our realities, just because something happened and we don't have an explanation for it doesn't mean that there wasn't a cause. It just means that we're not in touch with what the cause is. And this is where I have to make the argument for me believing in energy with consciousness that moves your body was somewhere else before it came into this personality that I now call my body and that I now call Lani Reagan. That this energy with consciousness came in with knowledge from previous existences, and she did things, or that my soul did things that were good on the karmic bank account records, and we also did things that were in the negative arena of the karmic bank account records. And it isn't like I come from a family with money and I don't have a charmed life. I mean, I had to work hard, and my family was had its own degrees of woundingness. Everybody has their own degrees of family dynamics. And so I endured a father who had a lot of anger, and I endured being in a religion that was very narrow minded. And I was the oldest of 4 kids. So I had to take care of children when I was, like I was the big sister who was like the second mom. And I can go on and on about the things that I sort of had to encounter and that I moved through that were kind of fucking painful. Sorry, but like they were. I'm using the F word. But but at the same time, I think that it's given me a body of experience where I'm able to relate to people from a wide array of experiences because of the things that I've seen in my life. And because I really sort of didn't spend too much time in that victim mentality, it just kind of kept making me search and making me look and be focused. And I think that that's how people end up coming to see me, is that they're also radiating at that same mindset. So I tell people, if you are thirsty and you are tired of repeating the same programs in your life, and you are wondering, how did you get to this spot in your life right now? My work can provide a lot of clarity and peace and focus. And then from that new perspective, if you move forward, you're going to create a different reality for yourself. So it's kind of exciting work. Yeah.
It's absolutely exciting, and I really appreciate you kind of sharing. I'm want to switch topics just a tad. You have mentioned money and income a few different times, and as you know, one of the things that I am incredibly passionate about is helping people find ways to create and preserve their wealth through, well, a wealth of different ways of doing it. One of it is
Mm-hmm.
creating businesses that are very different and unique. Another one is, right, like proper investing. And so I'm very curious to ask an expert, and I hope it's okay that I'm calling you an expert in this particular case scenario, of in your opinion, what is the energy of money to you?
So, my belief system holds that money is an extension of our energy field. Like our relationship to money is very reflective on our relationship to ourselves. And really, money is just the form of a frequency of a vibration. Um, and our job as little energy generators, because we're all generating energy, is to just hone on the ways in which we're going to transmute our life force into hard material. And money is actually sort of a big thing for me because I'm pretty positive that I came in with some karma related to stealing. So I have debt that I'm like working through, and my parents were both came from a place of like less than not really wealthy. My father was generally well taken care of. My mother came from less, prosperous surroundings, although she knew how to work money, but they just never spoke about it. So from my upbringing, I have like zero kind of comfort with money. And also in third grade, I had a poor experience with numbers with a teacher. And so numbers had always been sort of like foreign to me. It wasn't until I became an adult, got married, got divorced, ended up looking at my finances and going, okay, like, what are you thinking? And you need to kind of get to work on some of this, that I started to hone in really on the energy of money and working it better. Now, the laws that govern money are a couple fold. One is it's in giving that we receive. So the law of tithing is how I've kind of brought myself steady. And also the notion that as you're moving through the world with generosity, then you have to learn how to inhale and receive. So there's like two components to the field of money. As long as I'm tithing and the money is moving, as long as I don't have an energetic charge on my bills, right? Because sometimes we get a bill and we're like, I don't want to pay it. And that kind of resistant energy keeps, my phone will stop ringing and I'm like, okay, you're pouting about this bill. And you just have to like get over it, Lani, because you know that money just moves through you. Like, it's just supposed to move through you. How you manage the rate of it moving through you and what you take on the side and what you have on the banks here in the river of the flow of money, that's all what it's about. But, then what happens is we emotionally get hung up on it because it has everything to do with how we perceive ourselves, what we feel like we deserve. And so there's a very huge emotional component to working with money. And I'm mastering that slowly but surely. It's actually one of the last things in my little toolbox that I feel like I'm getting in order. And it's like finally coming into order for me. I've had like, but at the same time, I think I've had like probably less stealing karma and more harming karma because there have been times in my life where like when I was doing body work, I was like, I'm so tired of doing massage. I really just like doing energy healing. And then I heard this like little thing in my back of my like head saying, oh yeah, I think that you probably on some level hurt many, 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 many people, and you're having to put your hands on thousands of people to help them heal. And when you exhaust that number and you like fit in the bill, bing, then the money will start coming from somewhere else. And so I was very lucky. Even though I've been doing energy work for the last 18 years, I would say the last 6 or 7 years, specifically the last 4, I haven't had to have body work clients. So I won't say that I'm not doing any body work because I have people who've been with me for a really long time. So I probably have like 3 people on the books that I see like spread out.
Yep.
But generally speaking, I don't have to do that. And now I'm just focusing on energy work. And a lot of this is connected to me, working and healing my money karma. I'll call it money karma for lack of a better word.
Love it.
Money karma.
Yeah. I absolutely agree with you. See, I have this belief that money is called a currency for a reason. It's meant to be current. It's meant to flow. It's you put it so well. It's an energy. It's an energy in a physical form. which is not even all that physical anymore because now it's just digits and numbers that just move through the network on the computer, and it's really meant to flow. And I love that you're talking about tiding and always giving back and putting things forward and really sending it with love. And I love the fact that you talked about not getting so angry with the bill, because I have this belief that what you focus on grows. And so when
Mm-hmm.
I get so angry with the bill, or so angry that I'm being charged this stuff, right, then I go into this tantrum. I'm throwing a lot of energy. I'm throwing a lot of um, focus towards money leaving me. Well, guess what? If
Totally.
I'm focusing on that, I'm going to get more of that. And,
Yes.
I love the fact that you were talking about that, because it definitely aligns with my philosophy of how I see money.
Yeah. I really actually believe that, I mean, you could probably have another angle or like section of your business where actually just working with people to help them improve their attitude and their relationship, their personal relationship to the currency of money. We all have charges. I mean, the notion of even making X amount of money in a year or X amount of money, like I come from a background where my parents were like, well, if you have a job where you're making $30 an hour, like you're doing great,
Hmm.
right? And most people in a certain level of society would go, oh my God, that's so amazing. That's like secure. It's great. If you could be making 50, it's great. And then there's another mindset where like, okay, and this is where you get into entrepreneurship and you get into like people who do things like real estate agents or investors or like, and even doctors don't make that much money. I
No.
mean, doctors have, and I know doctors, and I actually have my boyfriend's brother used to be a doctor, and he's like out of it because he just didn't have a life. He needed to have time for himself. And even though, and he realized how much he was sinking into this status of quote unquote being a doctor, but like they don't make that much money either. And so, yeah, so you can probably have a whole nother coursework or set of systems that would be for people who don't see themselves as investors.
Yep.
And if you were thinking about experimenting with perceiving yourself as an investor, what would it take for you to do it? Because if you answer certain questions and you sort of present to them the notion that it's probably more doable for them than they perceive, and you start with the attitude change, right? Then you're not only going to get them to want to invest with you, but you're going to get them to shift so that they end up having money to invest. And actually, it's kind of what I do with my clients. When people are like, oh, I don't have enough money to like book the next session, then I go into my meditation and I send a lot of love and light. And I'm like, I ask that they, I want them to thrive, right? If they want my service, I want them to be able to pay me. I want them to thrive. I'm going to throw them anything they need to make it happen for themselves.
Yeah.
So
I love that the fact that you have mentioned that, and that's I'm actually working on my fourth book now, and it's called Manifesting, and it's really about the mindset and relationship about money, and it's really about that stuff. And and um, I as I was listening to you talk, I was like, oh my gosh, I totally need to ask Lani to consider potentially putting in a chapter in this book, because what you do when it comes to the healing and the energy would be absolutely amazing. And again, you don't have to answer right now because we're right like recording a session, and it wasn't something that I meant to do and ask, but it's right. Like I tend to believe that when something feels right, you do it in the moment.
totally.
Because if you don't, the moment goes away and then it's never right. And
Yeah,
so I
no,
am
I'm
such a
happy.
believer that, right, like you go with the flow. And just listening, I was like, oh my gosh, Lonnie would be perfect to contribute to the book, because what you're able to do, you explain it in a way that I don't, right? You come as a healer to this concept of how do I help shift people into abundance, into wealth,
Yes.
into feeling
Yes.
comfortable with money. Because I find that a lot of people have a lot of discomfort about it. And of course, if
Mhm.
you have a lot of discomfort, you have mentioned yourself, it's a relationship. If you and I were in a relationship and you had a lot of discomfort with me, right? It wouldn't last very long, right? It's not going to work,
Yeah.
right? And so that's
There's
what we
no
tend.
cohesion. There's no cohesion. Yeah.
Exactly. We tend to do the whole like go away and come in, and the money's
Hmm.
like, I don't know what you want, so I'm just gonna
Hmm.
go home. I'm not gonna come hang out with you because I don't know what to do with you.
Uh-huh.
And then we
Uh-huh.
wonder and we said, well, I just never have money. I'm like, well, stop repelling it. Stop
Yeah.
shooing it
Yeah.
away.
Yeah. And at the same time, I have a client who was working with the wife,
Yep.
and husbands actually usually don't really necessarily like my work. I don't know what it is, but then after the wives, like, they go home, or the girlfriends goes home, and like they start talking, then finally husband says, well, maybe I should see Lani too. So I started working with the husband, and it came up that he had a negative um idea or a program connected to his family name.
Mm,
So big family name in a certain part of the world, and even though it's a popular name and the name is a force for some general good in the community, his personal relationship within his family was a little rocky. And so when I muscle tested him for the notion of the name, he like what came to me was that he believed the name was a family curse. And at the same time, he was really looking to engage and make money in an entrepreneurial endeavor that he had been involved with for many years. And he would do it, but then it was always up and down. And the wife was always like, when is he just going to find the regular thing? And so you should have a session with him. So he agreed. We got rid of that program. And when I looked, I said, I perceive that because you have some industriousness and you are applying some basic laws with regard to money, it's this particular program that's keeping you from like really engaging. This person is extremely ambitious. He wants to be a billionaire. And I actually saw that he had the possibility of doing it. So I said that within a few weeks that you would probably get some other kind of something or other, and it's very likely to be connected to your name. But whatever, like we pulled, cancel, and deleted the notion that his family name was a curse. So as it turns out, about a month later, I get a phone call, and the wife says, so and so just approached him and asked him to use the family name on a line of I'm not going to tell you what the product is, but it's a very like it's now they're actually this was a year and a half ago, and now they're about to launch, and they're like, I mean, they're like basically going to make a lot of money, a lot of money, based on his name. Yeah, based on the use of his name after we pulled, cancel, and deleted, and and also some money history with the family and how the family used money. So it is kind of interesting what can be done when you switch certain things around energetically to help people evolve. And sometimes the lessons come slow because
yes.
I look at my life and I think, I feel like the lessons have come slow, but never out of right timing. I really also believe this too, that we're always in the right place for ourselves. Even if we're like in a place that's a challenge, it's exactly where we're supposed to be so that we can learn, because your soul, your humanness wants to move and expand and grow. And it will create a situation for you in which you're going to be able to maximize your growth with the right degree of a lesson. So some of us who are old soul, we pick really tough lessons to get ourselves out of.
Multiple times.
Right? Yeah, multiple times. And And we don't choose a life that's sort of easy and secure because we're sort of wanting to kind of get our groove on. And so those are actually the like ideal clients for me. Like the bigger the problem, like let's get down to work. Because the bigger the problem, it means, the dinner tastes only as good as you are hungry. So if you don't have any hunger pains, you go to the table, it's like, it's only, oh, okay, it tastes good. But when you have a container for holding a huge degree of pain and suffering and hunger, by the time you get to the other side, your degree of enjoyment is so much bigger and so much deeper. You couldn't have been in that space unless you experienced the other stuff. So those are the kinds of cases that I like to work, is people who are like really in a pickle and and even with illnesses, chronic illnesses are the same way. I think chronic illnesses are, they're karmic. And at the same time, I think there's things that we can do karmically to like see about reversing it. Although, the Apostle Paul, I do believe in the Bible. The Apostle Paul was known to say to do great works in the name of, the Lord Christ. Although there were some other things that happened too, so don't ask me, but because the Bible is full of stuff. But when he was on one of his missionary tours, he actually prayed and asked that his eyesight be healed. I don't know if you know the story. Do you know the story?
I don't.
Okay. And he said, because he was in this deep conversation with the force that is, and said, hey, by the way, since I'm being blessed with all these things, how about you like fix my eyes? Basically, can you remove this remedy from my eyes? Because he had a hard time seeing and he had to have attendance. And he was told no. He was told that this was sufficient for him, that that was not going to be his karma in this lifetime to have his eyesight. So I can't say that everything is like healable, but I can say that I've seen a lot of chronic ailments come straight through energy healing. Money too, by the way.
Yeah. Very cool. Okay, so I ask every individual on the show of what is your all-time favorite book and what are you currently reading? So one, other, or both.
Okay, so I'm a crazy reader. At one point in time I had to give away, when I got divorced and I had like moved and got rid of my stuff, I had to give away like 15 boxes of books. I am currently reading something called Mind to Matter by, I think the last name is Church. I don't remember, I don't have it handy with me, but, and it's about the science of energy healing and all the different experiments and actually how it works in the body. And they explain it with more scientific research than previously. I would say my all-time favorite book, that's a hard one. I think I keep a lot of books on my reference. I would have to say the book that I recommend the most and that I refer back to is a book called I Am the Word by Paul Selig. And Paul Selig is a channel. I don't know if you have heard of him or not. Paul Selig channels, and he channels publicly. And his first book called I Am the Word, the energy in the book will work on your frequencies while you're sleeping. And so when people first come to see me, I tell them to get that book because many times they're coming and then we open up this big can of worms and I can see all these things and we can work this much. And then I'm like, oh, no, you need like more. And if you can't get back to me sooner and you have to wait, then go and get the book, I Am the Word by Paul Selig. He has like 3 or 4 other books in this like compendium. But basically the idea of the book is that you are not your body, you are not your thoughts, and you are not your emotions. You are actually the mover of the body, you are the chooser of the thoughts, and you are the experiencer of the emotions. And the reason why I can say that is because this is the example that I use. When you say, I am moving my hand, what is being moved is the hand. Who in the sentence is doing the moving? I am. So if you say, I am moving my hand, the hand is being moved, the I am is the mover. Is the I am the same as the hand? If the hand goes, are you still the same I am?
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
You're still the same I am. So the I am is not the body. The I am is the energy with consciousness that moves the body. And so then we're back to energy work. Because if you can understand how to work with the very fine frequencies that is the realest part of you, you are way more empowered than if you just walk around thinking you're a body, getting attached to your thoughts, getting all upset over your emotions. You develop another degree of self mastery, and that's what people want from us. They want that soul energy. When we are radiating at that frequency, when we are radiating at that vibration, people will step into us. And that's what creates business. But we have to get out of our negative subconscious mindsets. And like you said, place your focus, place your attention on the thing that you want. And I tell people, it's just as easy. I mean, we waste so much time stressing out and going, "Arr." I mean, the amount of energy that we place into the stuff,
Yes.
if you just put it into the other thing, I mean, it can shift very fast. But I call that desire to go, "Arr." The Bible says something, it says like such and such are works of the flesh, and it starts to name them. And I always think that a work of the flesh is a classic notion of works of the flesh is where all you can do is just be so attached to the negative aspect of and the charge connected to. And when we're just too attached, we can't invest the energy into the other framework. And so this is another reason why part of my lesson plan is about mind and mindfulness and meditation. Because when you're sitting in that space of stillness, you start to see your fluctuations. And then you realize, why am I investing so much in that? Now you come in at a different kind of level. So you're already sort of understanding that notion. And if you incorporated some of those teachings in your, counseling with money, then you're probably going to empower people to grow their money faster, don't you think?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Maybe you're
It's
already doing
for
it.
me.
You're probably already
Yes,
doing it, right?
and a lot of the times it's very unconscious. It's just built into me, I guess. By this point, it's baked in the cake, and if you eat the cake, you get all of it.
Yeah,
You cannot parse it out. So
nice.
yeah, so I know that we are. My gosh, we're. This is like a super long interview, and I love it. Absolutely love it. No, it's not bad at all. It's just most of the ones have been about 30 to 40 minutes, and we're well into an hour. So
Okay.
this is a sign of a great guest, in case y'all are wondering. So
Oh,
I do have two questions, and and I do want to make sure I wrap it up because I'm afraid people might want to tune out. But I do hope that you come back to the show because there's just so much wealth about what you offer to the world, and just energy about you.
yeah.
And I'm
Well,
using that
thank you,
very
Nev.
specifically.
Thank
But
you. Thank you.
you have mentioned something of meditation. Do you meditate on a regular basis?
I do.
Yes.
Yeah, I do a little bit every day and about 4 times a week, like longer meditations. And there are various different meditations that create different conditions in your energy field. So I kind of do a variety, I would say, but I do teach basic mindfulness and I
Excellent.
do welcome questions. So if you ever if you're having people like pop up with questions and they want to know, I'd be happy to kind of come and do a little, Q&A of sorts if they wanted. And of course, if anybody wanted to know more about me, they can visit. Um, Now I'm in the middle of like changing and morphing my branding.
Okay.
So the all about me is on dynamichealingtherapies.com. So you'll read everything about my work there. And but it's about to kind of like I'm going to transfer all that information into LaniReagan.com.
Okay.
And my mentorship is going to be my membership program is going to be on LaniReagan.com. And if they have any questions, they can just email me at Lani. Okay, so it's LAN as in Nancy I. It's the Hawaiian crazy word spelling. So it's not LONNIE, it's LANI. They can email me at askloninow@gmail.com.
Okay. Perfect. So could you give And that was going to be the question that I wanted to ask is where people can connect with you. So I think you are starting to read my mind, and now I'm actually starting to worry. Maybe I do need to end this interview before you start projecting everything out of my mind into the world and start with embarrassing stories. And there goes that. So, okay, could you repeat those websites again? So there's a website right now that exists out there, and that's Dynamic
Healing
Healing.
Therapies. Dynamic Healing Therapies.
Perfect. And then everything is transitioned to LaniReagan.com.
LaniReagan.com. And it's spelled Lani. Reagan is Reagan. LaniReagan.com.
Perfect. And the email, in case folks have emails and want to connect with you directly.
It's Ask Lani Now at gmail.com.
Excellent. I will make sure to include the websites as well as the email contact information in the show notes. And so folks are able to connect with that. Lani, it has been a true pleasure to do this show with you, to interview you. I have really, really enjoyed having you. I hope that the audience feels the exact same way. You have shared a lot and given a lot. And I think if folks are to listen to this show one more or two more times, get some friends, listen together, and discuss. You have shared a wealth of knowledge that if folks are not completely tuned in the first time around, they may miss it. But if they truly sit down and listen to what it is that you are sharing, I believe that they will find a lot of healing, a lot of really cool things that they can start doing on their own. And then, of course, do sign up with Lani if you are looking to learn more how to help yourself and those you love the most. Thank you, Lani. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Nev. It's been a joy. You were fabulous to speak with. I'm just super happy to be able to share and also to, maybe even turn people on to this. And then just as one side note, I am interested in teaching meditation to young people.
Excellent.
So that might also be another something or other for you to teach money mindset to young people, because it's not something that they really are turned on to. So thank you so much. It's been so much fun.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you coming to the show.